A light November drizzle clung to the marble headstones as Celeste Davenport stepped onto the wet cemetery path. Her black heels crunched quietly over gravel, bouquet of white lilies in hand. Eyes locked on the grave she visited once a month, Julian Davenport, her only son. But something was wrong. A young black woman knelt by the headstone, her waitress uniform soaked through. In her arms, a little boy clung to her, both of them crying as though mourning someone they'd loved their entire lives. Celeste froze. She had never seen them before. "Excuse me," she said sharply, voice slicing through the silence. "This is a private grave." The woman stood slowly. Red-rimmed eyes met Celeste's without flinching. "I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone would be here today." Celeste's gaze dropped to the child, maybe 4 years old, maybe 5. His eyes stopped her cold green. Exactly like Julian's. "Who are you?" she asked, barely above a whisper. The woman hesitated, holding the boy closer. "My name is Maya Ellis, and this is Noah. We come here because Julian meant a great deal to us." Celeste's grip tightened on the bouquet. "How do you know my son?" Maya's next words would shift the ground beneath her. "Because Noah is Julian's son, and I promised his mother I'd protect him, no matter what." Celeste Davenport did not sleep that night. She sat in her private study, surrounded by shadows and silence, staring at a photograph of Julian that rested on the mantel. His eyes, those unmistakable green eyes, haunted her. She had seen them. Again. In the child. In that boy called Noah. By dawn, her mind was made up. "Ethan," she said into the intercom, her voice sharp and brittle. "Give me everything you can on a woman named Maya Ellis. She works at a diner. And find out who the child is." "Yes, ma'am," came the calm reply. By noon, Celeste's mahogany desk was buried beneath a file thicker than most annual reports. Her assistant, Ethan Lim, stood nearby, silent, composed, watching his employer with practiced distance. Celeste flipped through the pages, her manicured fingers twitching with each revelation. Name: Maya Ellis. Age: 28. Status: single. Occupation: waitress at Hillcrest Diner. Additional employment: evening cleaner at a local office park. Education: high school diploma. No known college enrollment. Residence: 1-bedroom apartment. Southbridge District. She works over 60 hours a week, Celeste muttered. No known family. Barely scraping by. And yet, she shows up at my son's grave with a child who looks like Julian. Ethan did not respond. He knew when not to speak. Celeste studied a grainy photo of the boy on a playground, laughing as he clutched a plastic airplane. That same crooked smile. That exact dimple. She tapped her finger against the image. What about his mother? Official documentation. Ethan cleared his throat. That is where it becomes unusual. There is no birth certificate on file. No hospital record. No named mother in any public registry. Celeste looked up slowly. Are you telling me this child was never legally born? I am saying, Ethan replied carefully, that as far as the system is concerned, he appeared out of nowhere. A chill swept through the room. For 3 years after Julian's death, Celeste had picked apart every piece of his life. His bank records, personal journals, phone logs. She had found nothing. No girlfriend. No mention of a child. No hint that anything had been hidden. Until now. She stood abruptly. Schedule a meeting. With whom? Celeste stared out the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city she had helped build stretch beneath her. With Maya Ellis, she said. Tomorrow. My office. 2 o'clock sharp. The next afternoon, the sleek, glass-paneled lobby of Davenport International seemed to reject Maya Ellis the moment she walked through its revolving doors. She wore her best outfit, an off-gray thrifted suit, a size too big, and flats with worn soles. But she walked tall, and she did not flinch as security cleared her, or when she was led to the top floor where power hummed beneath the marble. Celeste was waiting, seated behind a massive oak desk. The skyline stretched behind her like a throne room. Miss Ellis, she said coolly. Please sit. I will stand, Maya replied gently. Celeste arched a brow. As you wish. There was a long silence. I have looked into you, Celeste began, opening a manila folder. 2 jobs. No higher education. Living in a neighborhood where even the buses arrive late. You are raising a child with no legal documentation. A child who, by all appearances, is my grandson. Maya did not blink. Noah is loved. He is safe. He is happy. I am sure you do your best, Celeste said, her voice slicing like ice. But a Davenport deserves more than your best. He deserves the best. Period. Maya took a breath. Is that why you called me here? To question my worth. Celeste smiled, cold and thin. I called you here to discuss the future. Noah's future. And what role, if any, you should have in it. Another pause. The weight of legacy hung between them, one born of marble floors and gated estates, the other of diner counters and midnight shifts. This was no longer about curiosity. This was the beginning of a war. Celeste closed the folder with deliberate care. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a single check. Neatly signed, pristine. She slid it across the table like a final move in a quiet war. $200,000, she said. Enough to cover your debts. Enough to start over. Enough to walk away from all this chaos. Maya glanced at the check but did not move. You want to buy my son, she said, her voice flat. Celeste gave a tight smile. Let us not pretend this is about ownership. This is about opportunity. Noah could attend the best schools in the country. Have every door opened for him. Travel. Inheritance. A future Julian would have wanted for his son. Maya's fingers curled around the handles of her worn purse. Julian wanted his son to be loved, she replied. Not bought. Celeste leaned forward slightly. You would still be allowed to visit, of course. Weekends. Holidays. We would not keep him from you. But you must see reason. You are overworked, underpaid, and living in an apartment smaller than this office. A child deserves stability, Maya. Structure. Noah has structure, Maya said, her voice rising just enough to cut through the room's stillness. He has bedtime stories. Homemade lunches. Laughter at the dinner table. What he does not have, what I will never give him, is a family that uses money as a leash. Celeste's smile faded. You do not understand who you are speaking to, she said quietly. I do, Maya said. You are the woman who missed Julian's final game. The one who sent assistants to his birthdays. The one who built a glass tower and called it parenting. Celeste's knuckles whitened around her teacup. You know nothing about our family. I know enough, Maya said, her voice sharpening. Julian told me everything. About the years he spent chasing your approval. About the silence when he needed comfort. About how the only time you paid attention was when he succeeded on paper. Celeste stood, her presence towering. He was my son. And yet you never saw him, Maya replied. Not really. The silence cracked like thunder. Celeste reached again for the check, as if its paper weight could shift the moment. You could build a life with this, she said. You would not have to wait tables. You would not have to beg for scholarships. You could finally breathe. Maya took the check, held it gently between her fingers, and tore it clean down the center. Then again, and again, until it was nothing but paper confetti on the polished floor. Noah is not for sale, she said, her voice clear and final. Celeste stepped back, stunned. In her entire life, no one had ever walked away from that kind of money. No one had ever looked at a Davenport check and called it worthless. You have made a mistake, Celeste said. You have no legal claim. You are not family. You are barely. Maya's eyes flickered. Careful, she said softly, because you are making a lot of assumptions. And what you do not know about me, about Julian, about Noah, might be far more dangerous than what you think you know. Celeste narrowed her eyes. Is that a threat? It is a reminder. Maya said, that power comes in many forms. And not all of them were designer suits. She turned, walking toward the door, her heels silent on the marble. Just before stepping out, she glanced back. The next time we talk, Maya said, it will not be on your terms. And with that, she was gone, leaving behind a scattered check, a shaken empire, and a mother who was just beginning to understand that she might be up against something far more formidable than she had imagined. 3 days after Maya tore the check in half, Celeste sat in her office, sipping bitter coffee, when her phone rang. It was Richard Alden, her lead attorney for over 2 decades. Calm, cold, never shaken. But today his voice cracked. Celeste, we have a problem, he said. She straightened in her chair. What kind of problem? Maya Ellis has legal representation now, he said. And not just anyone. Morrison and Cole. Celeste froze. That was one of the top civil rights law firms in the country. Powerful, relentless, and famous for never losing high-profile custody cases. She cannot afford them, Celeste said flatly. She is a waitress. They are representing her. Pro bono, Alden replied. They have already filed a petition. If we try to take Noah by force, they will argue it is socioeconomic discrimination and possibly legal kidnapping. Celeste slammed the call shut before he finished. Her breath was shallow. How had this woman, this waitress, landed one of the most feared legal teams in the nation? Meanwhile, in Maya's small apartment across town, a very different kind of meeting was underway. The living room was modest, soft lighting, clean but cramped. Toys were tucked in the corners. A pot of tea steamed quietly on the table. Maya stood at the center, holding Noah's hand as three people surrounded her, each with a purpose. Zara Kingston, an award-winning investigative journalist known for exposing corporate corruption, sat with her laptop open. Her eyes scanned fast across documents and names. Dr. Leo Marshall, a law professor from Howard University, organized legal folders and case precedents with calm precision. And beside Maya stood a woman in her early 60s, tall, warm, and confident. Grace Ellis, Maya's aunt. The woman who raised her after her parents passed. Aunt Grace, Maya said softly. Thank you for coming. Grace smiled and kissed her cheek. You are not alone in this, Maya. We have waited a long time for this moment. Dr. Marshall glanced up. Are you ready for what comes next? Because once we file, Celeste Davenport will use everything she has. Maya nodded. I have been preparing for this since Julian died. Every night class, every court lecture, every networking event I worked just to shake one hand that might matter. I was not just surviving. I was building a defense. Zara looked up from her laptop. And it is solid. We have 3 years of financial reports from Davenport Industries, shell companies, suspicious overseas payments, undocumented political donations. Grace, your niece did her homework. Maya reached for a thick folder stacked on the coffee table. She opened it slowly. Inside were documents, copies of checks, emails, photos, records of meetings, all collected, quietly, patiently, over time. She underestimated me, Maya said. She thought I was just a tired waitress with a child and a small paycheck. But what she did not know was, I never had the luxury of giving up. The phone rang. It was Celeste. Maya answered and placed it on speaker. What game are you playing? Celeste snapped. Morrison & Cole? A top-tier law firm. I told you there were things about me you did not know, Maya said calmly. You think you can take my grandson from me? Celeste said, her voice rising. I have lawyers, connections, power you cannot imagine. Maya looked around the room at her team. Calm, steady, prepared. You keep talking about power, she said softly. But you forget that power without truth collapses. And I have the truth. I will ruin you. No, Maya said. You already ruined yourself. You just do not know it yet. Celeste hung up, furious. Grace turned to Maya. You know this is going to get messy. I know, Maya replied. But this is not just about Noah. This is about every child who has ever been told they do not belong because they were not born in a mansion. Dr. Marshall added. We file tomorrow morning. Zara smiled and leaned back. And after that, we shine a light. Maya looked down at Noah, who had fallen asleep beside her. She kissed his forehead gently. Let them come, she whispered. I am ready. It was Monday morning when the storm finally broke. Celeste woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing uncontrollably. 37 missed calls. A dozen urgent messages. Outside her bedroom door, David, her longtime assistant, stood, pale, holding a tablet in trembling hands. Celeste, you need to see this. She took the tablet, already dreading what she would find. The front page of the National Tribune filled the screen. Empire of Deceit, Davenport Industries under federal investigation. Beneath the headline were scanned documents, wire transfers, shell contracts, surveillance photos. A video played automatically. Politicians dining with Davenport executives, sealed deals, and voice recordings with Celeste's unmistakable tone. Conversations she thought had vanished years ago. Celeste's knees gave way. She dropped into a chair, her breath shallow. How did they get this? She whispered. Her phone rang again. Richard Alden. The FBI just froze your accounts, he said. Search warrants are being executed at corporate offices and your estate. The SEC has suspended trading. It is catastrophic. Celeste did not reply. She just stared at the article, her life dismantled, piece by piece, in high definition. Then her phone rang once more. Maya. Celeste answered, her voice sharp with disbelief. You did this to me." "Good morning, Celeste," Maya said, her tone calm and steady. "I imagine the headlines surprised you. I will destroy you. Do you hear me?" "I will, with what?" Maya interrupted. "Your accounts have been frozen. Your lawyers are in damage control. Your empire has crumbled before your eyes. You wanted war. You did not expect me to win." Celeste's hands trembled. "You are nothing but a waitress." "No," Maya said, slowly. "I am the guardian of a truth you buried years ago. And now it is time you hear it." There was silence. Celeste said nothing. "You never asked who Noah's mother was," Maya continued. "Not once. If you had, you might have learned her name was Sierra Blackwell." The name hit Celeste like ice water. "That is impossible. She was the daughter of Marcus Blackwell, your father's nephew. The same cousin you cut out of the Davenport inheritance in 1996. Celeste closed her eyes. She remembered that year. The secret documents. The pressure signatures. The manipulation. She had erased Marcus Blackwell from the family line, leaving his family with nothing. "Sierra grew up in poverty while you built skyscrapers," Maya said. "But fate has a sense of irony. She met Julian in college. They fell in love. But she never told him who she really was, afraid that you would tear them apart the way you did to her father." Celeste's hands fell to her lap. "Julian knew." She whispered. "Yes," Maya said. "He found out. After Sierra died in childbirth, Julian came to me. I was Sierra's closest friend. He knew she wanted me to raise Noah. And he knew what you had done to her family." Celeste swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. "Julian left everything to you?" "He did more than that," Maya said. "He spent the last months of his life collecting evidence. Emails, recordings, corporate records, all proving what you did to the Blackwells. And what you were still doing through Davenport Industries." The silence thickened. "The accident," Celeste whispered. "It was not an accident." "No, Celeste," Maya replied. "Julian was murdered. He got too close to a laundering operation inside your company. You hired people to handle problems. And they handled your son." Celeste gasped. The pain landed like a punch to her chest. She had spent 3 years mourning Julian. 3 years blaming the road, the weather, the universe. But the truth was far more brutal. Her own greed had killed her only son. "Noah is the last living heir to the Blackwell legacy," Maya said. "To the real Davenport line. And now that your fortune has been returned by court order, he finally has what Sierra was denied." Celeste said nothing. Her eyes burned, her throat dry. "You underestimated me," Maya said softly, "because you saw my uniform. You did not see the woman who spent 3 years preparing to take back what you stole." The call ended. And for the first time in her life, Celeste Davenport had nothing left to say. That afternoon, Celeste sat alone in her marble-floored living room, staring at the muted television screen. The channel was on every news network, every headline bearing her name. "Federal agents raid Davenport estate. CEO Celeste Davenport under investigation for financial crimes." Empire of power, built on lies. Her world had shrunk to a handful of breaking alerts and the chilling echo of silence in a house that once buzzed with staff. Then the doorbell rang. Before she could move, there was a thunderous knock. "Federal agents. Open up." She stood slowly, barely steady on her feet. When she opened the door, 10 men in navy jackets with FBI across the back flooded in. "Celeste Davenport," the lead agent said. "You are under arrest for conspiracy, tax fraud, and obstruction of justice." As they clicked cold metal handcuffs around her wrists, reporters outside caught everything. The woman who once dined with senators and CEOs was now escorted down her marble steps. Powerless, exposed, and humiliated. The cameras zoomed in on her face, once polished, now pale. The image went viral within hours. Across town, Maya stood at the gates of Briarstone Academy, the same elite private school Julian had once attended as a child. She held Noah's hand. Both of them dressed neatly. The administrators had already approved the scholarship. The court had recognized Noah as the legal heir to the Blackwell Davenport estate. All pending disputes were dismissed. Justice was not just won, it had been delivered. Noah looked up at the towering school building and whispered, "Is this where Daddy went?" Maya nodded with a smile. "Yes, and now you will too." Inside her purse was the official letter of admission, signed, sealed, and stamped. She had not only protected Julian's legacy, she had restored it. Aunt Grace waited in the car, watching the moment quietly, her eyes filled with emotion as they walked toward the front doors. Reporters tried to catch up, shouting questions. Maya, how do you feel about Celeste's arrest? Is it true Davenport Industries has collapsed? What comes next? Maya turned briefly, her voice calm. I was never after revenge, she said. Only the truth. That evening, Maya sat in her apartment, now filled with warmth and quiet joy. A fresh diploma hung on the wall, her MBA, finally earned after years of night classes. In the corner, Noah played quietly with his violin. Her phone rang. It was Zara. They just confirmed it, she said. The courts approved full transfer of all legitimate assets back to the Blackwell family line. Legally and financially, Noah is the sole heir. Maya closed her eyes. Relief washed over her like a quiet tide. He will never know what it means to be forgotten, she whispered. Not like Sierra, not like Marcus. Later that night, Maya stood on the balcony, holding a framed photo. Julian, Sierra, and a newborn Noah. Smiling, whole, she traced their faces gently with her thumb. You both can rest now, she whispered. He is safe. He is seen. And the empire that tried to erase you is gone. Behind her, Noah's laughter rang out from the living room. She turned back inside and joined him. The battle was over, and she had won, not just in court, but in spirit, in legacy. In Love Point, 2 years had passed, the concrete walls of Riverside. Women's Correctional Facility were a far cry from the glass towers where Celeste Davenport once ruled. Her days were now spent folding laundry for $2.30 an hour and eating meals off a plastic tray. She had become a footnote in a scandal that had reshaped corporate America. One afternoon, a guard appeared at her cell door. Davenport. You have a visitor. Celeste blinked. She was not expecting anyone. With heavy steps, she was escorted to the visiting room. Waiting on the other side of the glass, dressed in a navy blue suit and a calm expression, was Maya Bennett. Celeste sat down. Her prison uniform looked pale against Maya's poise. What do you want? She muttered, bitterness lacing her voice. I came to give you an update, Maya replied evenly. About Noah. Celeste looked away. You already won. What more do you want from me? Nothing, Maya said. She opened a folder and slid it across the counter. Inside were photographs. Noah, beaming in his school uniform, standing proudly with a violin in one hand and a certificate in the other. He was just accepted into Briarstone's honors program. Music and mathematics, Maya said. His teacher says he is gifted, just like Julian. Celeste stared at the images. Her grandson, thriving, loved, and completely out of her reach. He asks about you, Maya added gently. He wanted to know if bad people can become good. Celeste's eyes flicked up. And what did you tell him? That it depends on whether they truly want to change. There was a long silence. How did you afford all this? Celeste asked, her voice low. The court restored the fortune you stole from Marcus Blackwell. And his daughter, Maya replied. It belongs to Noah now. His mother's legacy. His birthright. Not a penny more. Celeste closed her eyes. And you? She asked. What did you get? I got the chance to give a child what Julian never had, Maya said. A family that leads with love, not fear. A legacy built on presence, not power. She stood, gathering her things at the door. She turned back for one last glance. Noah is safe. He is seen. He is deeply loved. Maya's voice softened. You tried to buy him, Celeste. But love cannot be bought. It must be earned. Then she walked away, leaving Celeste alone in the cold, fluorescent-lit room, surrounded by everything she had lost, and finally understanding why.